But first, let's start with the fallout that continues over the Conservative Party disqualifying Patrick Brown from running to be its leader. The Tories have sent their allegations about Brown, that he broke elections laws, to the elections commissioners. And now the Liberals want the commissioner to investigate the entire party, saying in part, any investigation must not be limited to an individual leadership contestant, but must follow the money if there was potential benefit to the party as a whole. Brown plans to appeal the decision to boot him from the race through his new lawyer, Powerhouse Marie Henein. So is the party's credibility at stake? Leadership candidate Jean Charest is in Calgary. Mr. Charest, good to have you back on the program. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you, Vashi.
I know we're going to talk about the economic plan you're pitching in just a second, but I do have to ask you about what's going on with the party and in particular with Patrick Brown. Do you feel like your party's credibility is at stake over this issue?
Well, inevitably, when these things happen, Vashi, it affects the perception of the party. There's no doubt about that, and that's why it's so important that we have transparency about what all of this is about. And what is it exactly that the party found was at fault with Mr. Brown, and what it is that he needs to do to explain himself to be able to clarify that. And if he is at fault, well, then he's accountable for that. But it's very important that the party be transparent about all of this. Otherwise, you know, the people just don't know what it is exactly that's happening, and they'll think the worst.
Do you think that the party has not been transparent enough?
Well, the way this unfolded, I mean, a decision that's delivered late into the night on allegations that we don't know. Quite frankly, there was no information on the reasons why this was done, apart from saying that there had been discussions and conversations, and then Mr. Brown gave a version of events where he said that he was not given very precise information. All of this, Vashi, has to be clarified so that we know exactly what's going on. And again, otherwise, people will just speculate and think the worst, and that's to no one's advantage.
When you talk about there needs to be more transparency, or you need to know more, and people need to know more about what is going on, do you mean that the evidence that led the party to its decision, that they say they have in their hands, should be made public?
Well, they should at least explain the circumstances and the reasons why. I mean, the evidence is a big word. I mean, do you have to produce the documents? But they have to say, what is it exactly that was so egregious that it led to disqualifying the candidate? What is the allegation? And that would allow Mr. Brown to respond to it. And Mr. Brown is going to appeal, according to the statutes of the party, this decision. So hopefully that will be a moment where the party can come clean and say, well, here it is, here are the reasons and the allegations that led to this decision, and that way we'll know at least what we're talking about.
Is it your understanding that he actually can appeal? And I'm asking because we've been reading through the rules, and it sounds a little bit like the decision around disqualification is that of Leox alone. Is that your understanding as a candidate?
Well, if there is an appeal, I'm assuming, and I haven't read the details of the rules, Vashi, but if he is appealing, I'm assuming he's appealing to a higher court, so to speak, of the party that will be allowed to look at the circumstances and review them. Otherwise, what's the point of appealing? And I'm assuming that they'll then make a decision, but explain to us and tell everyone what it is exactly that is alleged against Mr. Brown, and that way we'll know at least what's happening.
Have you talked to Mr. Brown since he was disqualified?
We talked yesterday morning, and I've known Mr. Brown a very long time. I consider him to be a friend, and he came into politics with me, and so we talked yesterday morning, and he did. From the conversation we had yesterday, my understanding was that he would be appealing.
There was also a lot made at the outset of this race, and I remember talking to you back then about this idea. There was some reporting, actually, that there was some sort of pact between yourself and Patrick Brown. I know at the time you said that there wasn't anything formal, but is there something going on behind the scenes, or has there been?
No, and there is no pact. It's the members of the party who are going to be voting and deciding. And it's a pretty complicated format. People have trouble, understanding. Even the media doesn't have a good read on it, as far as I'm concerned. It's 100 points per riding. So you can have 7,000 members in a riding, it's 100 points, or 700, it's 100 points. And the reason why it was designed that way is to give a wide distribution of support across the country. And so the front runners in the last races under this system lost because they top out after the first ballot. And so race is wide open. And with Mr. Brown being sidelined right now, it makes the choice even clearer, Vashi, between, what we want. Do we want to be in opposition for forever, or do we want to be a national government? And I'm the only candidate in this race that is going to elect a national government. And so now the choice couldn't be any clearer than it is now. So I'm confident. And yes, it's a fight, but that's fine. That's what politics is all about. I'm looking forward to winning this leadership race.
I think if I'm interpreting, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, your criticism of the interpretation of the rules, you're saying this kind of perception or reporting of Pierre Poilievre as a clear front runner is inaccurate. I would challenge you only on the front that their campaign is saying they've sold 312,000, I think, of the 600 plus thousand memberships. Just one second. And that you have yet to say how many memberships you've sold. You just said that there is a path to victory. They have also laid out, through reporting in the Globe and Mail, the geographic distribution of those memberships. So to challenge the point that you're making about the necessity of it being spread around because of the point system, they are saying that path to victory does exist because it's 300,000 members spread out across the country.
Vashi, Mr. Poilievre is the front runner in this race. I'm the underdog in this race. And what I'm saying and reminding everyone of is that the front runner in the last races lost. They also had more memberships, and they lost. Why did they lose? Because it's a preferential ballot where people make their first and second and third choice, and the front runner will top out after the first ballot because he's no one's second choice. Well, I happen to be the one who is going to benefit from that because I'm the strongest candidate after that. And why will people want to vote for me, either as first or second? Because they are tired of losing. Now, Conservatives are tired of giving elections away to the Trudeau Liberals. They'd like to win the next election campaign with a made-in-Canada Conservative agenda. And that is exactly what I'm going to offer the country. Now, to do that, we need to have a national appeal, though, which is what I offer, and someone who's able to get elected in every part of the country, including Alberta, including the West, and Ontario, and Quebec, and the Maritimes, and that's also what I offer, and that's where obviously Mr. Poilievre falls short.
Okay, just before I let you go, part of what you're offering is the economic plan that you released today. And I just wanted to highlight something that stood out to me. You said in the release around it, it's a conservative plan that focuses on cutting taxes and getting government spending under control to fight inflation while protecting the programs and services Canadians rely on. So when I look deeper into the plan, you'll decrease revenues essentially by cutting taxes, cut spending by attrition, and cut wasteful spending, but keep programs Canadians rely on. Can you understand how Canadians might think that math does not add up?
I'll tell you how. You grow the economy, Vashi. Something that has been foreign to this Trudeau Liberal government in the last 7 years. You know what the bridge is,
GDP growth right now is not terrible, but yeah.
You have to grow the economy, and that means developing our resources, including oil and gas and pipelines and mining. That's how you do it, instead of just spending, Vashi, because that's been the Liberal formula for the last 7 years. It's all on spending. And you know what, Vashi? Look at the record I have of being in government. It's exactly what I did. I reduced taxes, reduced the size of government, and you know what? Canadians are the ones who ended up with higher disposable income. That's why we run for office, not just to line up numbers on a sheet of paper. That's not what the story's about. At the end of the day, we want Canadians to have a better lives and a better country. And to be a better country, we need also a national government, and that is exactly what I'm going to deliver.
This critique around spending is a fair one, but it's not accurate or fair to say that the economy has not grown under this government.
Well, it certainly hasn't grown in the way it should have. I guarantee you that. We'd be building pipelines if it were. We would be growing this economy in such a way where we'd allow people to increase their disposable income. With the spike in inflation we have right now, I'll tell you, the wages of Canadians are certainly not growing. They're losing ground. You know, the wages of people are actually going down. Their income is going down because the spike of inflation is higher than wage growth in this country, Vashi, right now. We're way below the potential that we should have economically in this country. And yes, we can reduce taxes. We can actually control spending. We can actually maintain programs. I've done it before. If we're smart about how we do this, and if we grow a bigger pie so that everyone will benefit.
Okay, I'm out of time. I have to leave it there. Mr. Charest, thank you for your time.
And thank you for your questions, Vashi.
That's Tory leadership candidate Jean Charest. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.